Good morning to those on the West Coast, and good afternoon to everybody on the East Coast joining us today. My name is Larry Compton. I'm a digital media expert for Ocean Systems, here today to talk to you about QuickDME, give you an overview of how our QuickDME asset management solution can help you manage your digital evidence. Joining me today is our Vice President, Charles Guarino, Charles will be talking and answering questions throughout the presentation. Speaking of questions, at the end of this webinar, we'll be answering questions. You can submit questions throughout. To get to the questions panel, go to your view menu in the GoToWebinar controls, and you can display the questions panel, and you can expand or pull it out and have that open throughout the webinar so that you can submit questions throughout the webinar as we go, and again at the end we'll be trying to get to all of those that we can. Real quick, just overview of who Ocean Systems is. I see in the attendee list some very familiar names, so thanks for joining us, and some new names. So excited to tell you a little bit about Ocean Systems history. This year is our 30th anniversary as a company. We're a pioneer of DOS and Windows graphics solutions, from all sorts of 3D and graphics, Windows graphics solutions back in the late 80s, early 90s, and really had established ourselves as a pioneer, which is why Avid Technology came to us and looked to have us migrate Media Composer from a Mac-only solution into the Windows world. So we became their very first integration partner and helped them migrate over to Windows. We've been on GSA contract schedule for quite some time. Very early pioneer forensic video. We started in the forensic video field in 1998 with our detective solution, which we have some news about a little bit later. We got thousands of detective systems out there, and as you probably know, we provide both hardware, software training, and other professional services. Some of our products, of course, are purpose-built multimedia and digital evidence hardware solutions. On the right of your screen, you'll see one of our Ocean Systems towers, which has a integrated write blocker built into it for digital evidence processing. Very high-end Xeon processors, custom-built towers and computers and mobile solutions that are built in-house and supported in-house. So no phone banks. We handle all of the support on our systems, soup to nuts. And our Safe AV RAID storage is one of the things that's really picking up as far as need by end users as they're trying to figure out what to do with all their assets, how to store all of their digital evidence and continue to accommodate that. Safe AV is an expandable RAID storage solution, very high speed, up to 4,800 megabytes through a SAS3 connection. And we can scale that up to a total of 256 drives. Today we're using 4 terabyte drives in those RAID arrays. So we can start you off with a 60 terabyte solution and scale you all the way up past 1 petabyte with a total of 16 bay chassis daisy chained together. It's a pretty impressive storage solution from both scalability and redundancy. Obviously, in addition to our hardware, we have multiple software solutions. ClearID, our image and video clarification for Adobe Photoshop, and Avid Media Composer, non-destructive workflow, integrated hashing, and all of those sorts of things built right into the solution. Detective, again, we've got some news on our 7.5 release that we'll be chatting about, but Detective is a software suite. It used to be packaged with our hardware, only with our hardware. Best run, of course, on Avid qualified systems, and who better to get an Avid qualified system from than the very first Windows integration partner. Omnivore and Omnivore Field Kit is our uncompressed screen capture solutions for acquisition and processing. So Omnivore Field Kit is a field solution that allows you to collect video from pretty much any type of device that exports or plays video. If it can be played on the screen, we can get that uncompressed and get it out quickly for dissemination. Also very handy as far as a documentation solution for digital video recoveries and that sort of thing. And the Omnivore drive itself, which is on version 3, 64 gig USB drive that is a portable, uncompressed forensic screen capture solution that can be used both in recovery and, of course, in processing. And then today we're going to be talking about asset management and managing our digital evidence with QuickDME, a very scalable, secure solution that puts your agency, your law enforcement representative or administrator in complete control of the solution, allows you to manage every type of digital evidence, and has some integrated features such as our player manager for associating and distributing proprietary players and things of that nature necessary in order to view the assets. So let's jump right into QuickDME. Again, all video evidence supports any type of digital file, have that integrated player manager, completely customizable. So by that I mean you can customize your case number format, your storage hierarchy, the types of crimes, incident categories, report layouts, and more, so that everything is customized to meet your existing policies and procedures rather than having you create or modify your policies and procedures to accommodate the software solution. And we can leverage your existing network infrastructure. And what I mean by that is that we can take advantage of your existing storage. You don't have to buy storage from us. You don't have to buy switches and things of that nature. If you have SQL database already in your network, you have ample storage, well, you can leverage that with our solution. And we like to think it's a very cost-effective solution, especially if you're in the market for asset management solutions. I'm sure you've looked at some of the others out there and their cost involved, as well as licensing. You have typically storage costs and things of that nature. Again, QuickDME allows you to have complete control, you being the agency administrator of the solution. So from a 50,000-foot overview, QuickDME sits between your users and the evidence storage and database, evidence database. It's really that simple. It's designed to be the single source access to the secure storage and secure database information with complete auditing capabilities so that every asset is tracked and audited, customizable permissions so that you can give people only the permissions they need to access things. As far as the database and storage goes, again, if you already have SQL Server in your network, great, we can leverage that. There's no additional licensing. If you don't, you can, of course, use SQL Server Express 2016, 2014, 2012, whichever flavor suits you. And as for storage, if you have a SAN already, ample storage that you can expand and continue to grow, well, we can leverage that. And just recently, one of the updates to QuickDME is we've made this even easier. So not only can you leverage storage that's already on your domain and associated with your domain, you can leverage now network-attached storage devices, NAS devices that aren't even on your domain. So right off the shelf NAS device, plug onto your network, and we can leverage that as a storage location as well, which fits nice for some of our small lab environments that are leveraging QuickDME. As far as licensing on QuickDME solution, we'll certainly take questions and address this at the end of the seminar if necessary, but it's a very, very flexible solution because of our dynamic floating licenses. Now what that means is that the base package comes with 3 licenses. Those licenses are by default dynamic floating licenses. A license only gets pulled when someone's in the solution. So you could install the software on every computer in your network at your agency. However, it's only going to pull a license when somebody actually opens the application to log in, and we'll show you how that works. We can also take some of those dynamic floating licenses and assign them statically to either people or computers. So if you wanted to set up like a kiosk in the detectives area, that was a machine dedicated just for ingesting evidence. We could do that by assigning a static license, meaning that that machine's always going to have a license available to it, or that person will always have a license available to them. And we can keep an eye on how many people are logged in a number of ways. The administrator can look at that both in our admin configurator utility as well as the actual login fields for Access DME. So very flexible when it comes to licensing. So QuickDME is a software suite. There are actually 4 applications, 2 end-user applications, 1 administrator application for customizing the solution, and then 1 utility that's typically only used once to set up and configure the solution. The 2 end-user applications are QuickDownloader, which is a utility that runs on the system and stays running in the system taskbar. It's what's used to ingest the evidence into the solution. So if somebody inserts a disk or a thumb drive into the PC, it auto-launches and says, hey, there's new media inserted. Do you want to ingest evidence from this media? And I'll show you that process here momentarily in a demo. The form you see here, and I'll show you during the demo, is completely customizable. We can add up to 5 custom fields to the case forms and 5 custom fields to the download forms. We can view our assets briefly and quickly review them right within the downloader interface, and I'll show you how that works as well. And what QuickDownloader does is it's going to hash the source file on its current storage location, so that thumb drive or disk. It's then going to ingest it, upload it to the secure evidence storage location, and enter the related information into the database, and hash it again at the evidence storage location and verify that all of those hashes matches from the original source to the evidence storage location. Once it has verified that information, it then is going to complete the download and generate some reports depending on how you have the solution set up. So we'll show you that entire process momentarily. It really provides for a lot of automation. In one case, we have a customer that had a several-day backlog of just burning disks, for instance, from recoveries. So officers would be out in the field doing digital evidence recoveries, stored to thumb drives from a DVR or what have you, and then they'd submit them to the digital evidence unit to get burnt to disk, for that disk to be entered into physical evidence. And QuickDownloader allowed them to automate that process and eliminate that backlog from a few days to 0 days, which completely eliminated the backlog, but also allowed them to get on to other casework and more important tasks rather than just copying assets and burning them to disk and hashing and so on and so forth. So we'll show you some of that as well. The other end user application is our Access DME. Access DME is an application that's used for the end users to view and manage the assets depending on the permissions that they're assigned. By default, a person entered into the system, whether by an administrator or if the administrator allows them to create their own account, which I'm going to show you here momentarily, that person has no permissions assigned until an administrator assigns them permissions to do and view or copy and burn various types of cases. Access DME allows them to view high resolution, the full resolution media, or what we refer to as a proxy view. So by default, it's only going to push a proxy view of that asset over the network unless you choose to download and view it. And we have multiple ways that you can view assets within QuickDME. We have an embedded quick view window, which I'll show you here, and you can see in this the screenshot here on the display now, where we can play a lot of standard and typical files automatically, as well as some proprietary files. We also have an association feature that create and manage those proprietary players feature I spoke of. That allows us to create file associations unique to QuickDME. not to Windows, but to QuickDME, so that anyone else that opens up Access DME to view this evidence, if I've created a file association for them to use, they can view it with that file association. So I'll show you that process here momentarily. Review the complete audit logs and metadata for all their assets. Obviously, copy, print, burn, disclose evidence, and if they have permissions to actually purge evidence, all of which, of course, is audited in detail. And I'll show you some of those audit records as well. So those are the two end user applications, Quick Downloader and Access DME. The admin configurator is a utility used by, as the name explains, the administrator of QuickDME. So your LE administrator can come in and customize the solution to meet your agency's needs, including adding your own agency logo, your case number pattern, forcing everyone to follow that case number pattern, so on and so forth. You can import users from Active Directory or a CSV file, manage all of the user permissions, manage purging and licenses, and so on and so forth. So I'll pop into the admin configurator solution as well and give you a quick look at that. And the last piece of the suite is a utility that's typically only used once during the initial setup of QuickDME. It's a utility for setting up the database and storage locations, as well as our email server. We now have email notifications that go out based on various rules, so you can allow users to set up their own rules for email notifications, and you can have the system notify you if you are allowing people to add their own user accounts. The system will send you an automatic email notifying you when somebody has added themselves to the QuickDME Suite, and I'm going to show you how that process works. For those that have seen QuickDME in the past, a few of the more recent updates that we've done with QuickDME, and we've got a lot on the drawing board that we're working on and pretty excited about. One of the most recent things is the NAS storage support that I was talking about. Typically, it was a bit cumbersome when dealing with off-the-shelf network-attached storage devices like a Drobo or something of that nature that wasn't on the domain. So on the same physical network, but not actually authenticating through the domain and using its own internal authentication. You go in and had to set up, all these different users on that particular NAS device. Now we're able to just use that off-the-shelf NAS storage pretty much plug and play. So as long as you can navigate to it, you can leverage that as storage for your evidence assets. Within Quick Downloader, we've done some interface updates and provided some new notifications, as well as the ability to link to current sources. And this link to current sources option allows us, for a few of our customers, it came about in a lab environment. So they're leveraging QuickDME to manage all of their digital evidence in a digital evidence lab, multiple users in there, and each of them are trusted in a physical environment and actually can browse to the evidence storage location. And they are ingesting images of hard drives, very, very large files. And so if we had to ingest them after the image has already been created through QuickDME, that might take some time. So what we've done is added this link to current sources option, which says to QuickDME, hey, the evidence is already there, just go assess it and bring it in. You don't have to re-upload it, basically. Let us append all of the metadata from QuickDME to the evidence that's already at that storage location. So it's sped up that process dramatically. It cuts out an entire copy paste of the evidence, basically. We also have a relatively new derivative workflow. So if you check out evidence to create derivatives, you can bring those derivatives back in and have those pretty easily identified as derivative items, and I'll show you that. And then within our player manager, a few months back, we introduced a new auto association feature. So it's going to make every effort to automatically associate the proper proprietary player with the proprietary video file. And we've added a way for you to share any special notes or instructions you might have about those players with a PDF, and you could have that PDF auto-open when the player opens, that sort of thing. And then we added some basic image redaction capability late last year as well to give basic blurring, redaction on images prior to disclosure and have those changes saved as a derivative rather than to the original right within QuickDME. So those are some of the most recent changes and updates to QuickDME. I am going to pop over and launch the application now and show you an actual ingest. So what I have is a 2 gig thumb drive I'm going to plug into my system. And as I plug it in, QuickDME is going to say, hey, I see that you've plugged in a new drive. Would you like to ingest evidence? Now I can just choose a folder from that drive or the entire drive. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and choose the entire drive. We can see the new interface windows as it scans the drive and the disk, and then it comes up and says, hey, do you want to ingest this evidence into a single case, or is there evidence from multiple cases on this drive? In this case, I'm just going to do a single case. Here's our recent addition linked to current sources. Again, this is if QuickDME is deployed in such a way that the users have direct access to the storage location, which isn't very common, but is in some of the smaller deployments, specifically for digital evidence labs and dealing with those large files. We don't have to copy them over again, so that saved a ton of time. I'm just downloading a single case. It's quickly scanned the drive, found the files. I can see that all of these files are selected. Highlight them, my full file name. This interface right here is being updated as well. In our next release, we're going to provide you multiple views of the files. I can access these files in my default Windows player during ingest if I wanted to look at them closer, play the video, view the images, that sort of thing. And then I have my form fields for ingesting the evidence. So in this case, I'm going to call this RE4 because I have a proprietary video file, RE4 here. So my case number format was already set up by my administrator. It's sample PD17 of the year. And I'm just going to call this RE4. And then it's going to ask me to go through and fill out the various form fields for our case information and then this particular download. You can see once I entered the RE4 and hit tab, it pre-filled all of these fields because there's already a case in the system with this case number. Now I can look at those cases that are in the system by just double-clicking on the case number field and selecting any given case to add things to. So I do that in tab, and it's going to go right through the custom comments. Case includes video options. So these custom fields for the case information can be multiple types. Again, you can have up to 5 custom fields. They can be just text fields, multiple choice fields, drop-down fields, number fields, so on and so forth. So you can completely customize it to meet your needs and your existing policies and procedures. Evidence is ingested based on the types of crime, and this is a big part of how QuickDME manages the evidence. So you can, the administrator can set up all of these. It ships default with several types of crimes and incidents. And you can see I have some in here like this test disk burning. So with this type, it's going to force me to create a disk once this evidence has been successfully ingested. So it ingests and then automatically burns the same data and the hash values to a disk. physical disk, and so that can be entered into physical evidence. In others, like I have a crime type for non-evidence, body-worn, and non-evidence in-car. Those I created to set up automated purging. So this is a video from a body-worn or in-car camera system, and let's say our agency policy is if there's no crime related to this video within 120 days, go ahead and purge those assets. These particular crime types would do that. If there is, then we can, a crime related to one of those assets using Access DME, we can simply move it over to the appropriate type of crime and case number, etc. So I'm just going to pick a type of crime, financial, change that over. Because this information was already pre-populated on the location where it was going to, so on and so forth, all pre-populated. I'm just going to tab to the next field, and here's where we're going to enter who collected this evidence and who uploaded this evidence. Now, I'm going to enter the demo user ID for our Captain Crunch character as the person who collected it, and I'm going to enter a new user, let's say 656. And because I have the system set up to allow new users to add themselves, it says, hey, this person doesn't exist. Would you like to add it? Yes. Comes up with a little form, title information, test user, Joey, tester, and then default password, which they can change here. And they can actually add their signature file here or do it later. I'm just going to say save. So I've entered the new user, Joey Test User. Now remember, when they enter themselves, they have no permissions but to access what they themselves have uploaded. That's it. So they can't copy, burn, do anything with anything else. And then a custom comments field on this particular download, some photos and proprietary video. Now down at the bottom I have some options that are turned on by default. Tag selected files. So I'm going to show you the tagging interface where we can actually add keywords to the images or assets as they're being ingested. The next option, if I had permissions to override, I could uncheck these. And I do have permissions to override in this case, but the next option is preserve folder structure, which is on by default. So what that's going to do is make sure that the folder structure from the original source is always maintained. So anytime we copy it out for disclosure or any other purpose, it's copied out in the exact folder structure that the original source provided it in. This can be critical for things like proprietary digital video recorders and things of that nature that need assets in a certain order and location in order to play. You saw a little window scan through those assets and take a look at them, and this is our tagging interface. So I'm on an RE4 file here. I'm just going to enter a keyword on this. I'm going to say this is the video file, and I'm going to hit enter to move on to the next asset. And I'm going to say this is a truck and hit enter. So I can continue doing that, and as I do it, you see I've built a quick text list. I could just use a shortcut to use those same keywords again, which is control key plus the number. So enter, or I can just continue entering on through. What I'm going to show you here is our sensitive flag. So let's say this is a sensitive image. We don't want others to be able to view this without the appropriate permissions. And I'll even label it sensitive, and we'll finish on through our tagging. And once you come to the end, it says you're at the last image. You ready to close this window? Yes. And this is where Downloader just quickly hashed everything on the original source, uploaded it to my storage location, hashed it there, and validated. Now I have it configured to provide the option to print a couple reports. One is called our photo log, which is going to, and I'll show you an example of this, the photo log is actually going to have the tag information that we entered right within the report with the asset names and hash numbers. Tag/photo log. And so of course it opens on another window, but the report Our photo log report has the asset file name, size, date and time ingested, and our tag descriptions on those files as well. So here's our hash information for that file, so on and so forth. The other report that's auto-created by default is called our property sheet. Now this is just a generic report that shows what types of assets were ingested. And then our new notification window, which is more clearly notifying people whether or not the download was successful or not. And the property sheet, again, just a summary. So it has, custom agency information, our case information, download information, and then an item summary of the items uploaded, how many of each of these types of files and their file sizes. So a very basic property sheet on what was ingested and by whom. Those are the two default reports. They get entered when we do that ingest. So now that we've ingested some evidence, let's pop over to Access DME and actually look at what we just ingested. I'm going to log in with our Captain Crunch account. 111123. This is from our demo database that we provide, which is just a quick, easy way to get into QuickDME and see how to leverage this within your particular environment. Real quick overview on the interface. Access DME, as you can see, interface is very customizable. I can resize these windows, I can dock these windows, I can pull these windows off and put them on different displays. In GIST, on the left-hand side is our search tool and search results. So whatever we search for is going to be displayed in this search pane on the left. I'm going to use a wildcard character and just search for all cases in the system right now and click Find, and it's going to bring up a list of all of those cases. Then I have just the case folders, and within each case folder is our download records. Now there might be 10, 15, X number of downloads under a given case, depending on how much evidence you're ingesting. The top window here is called our Quick View window. Again, this one can be pulled off as well and put onto a separate monitor. Same with our Items View window. Our Items View gives you a thumbnail of the asset as well as the file name. And over on the right-hand side, we have 4 windows actually, 2 nested within each other. The case window, which has the related case information, and as long as we have permissions, we can change things like does it include video, so on and so forth, change the type of case even, and save those changes if we have permissions. And the download information for this particular download record under that case, including who collected it, when it was uploaded, and by whom, so on and so forth, as well as all of our custom fields. Below those 2 windows, the case and download windows, we have our file metadata window and our audit window. Again, they can be pulled off, resized, put on additional displays. But right now I'm highlighted on this particular audio file. It tells me it's a WAV file, has my file name and some basic metadata regarding that file, including our MD5 hash. On the audit window, we have a detailed audit of everything that's been done with this file. Everyone who's viewed this file, whether or not they viewed the high-res or just the thumbnail, anyone who's copied or printed the file, so on and so forth. Again, they can only do that if they have permissions to do so, but all of that information is recorded here. And we can run reports with the proper permissions to show our entire audit log on this particular asset. So those are the windows within the Access DME interface. For playing back something like this audio file, I can just simply play it in our Quick View window. I can highlight sections of it and play just certain sections, so on and so forth. The other asset within here is actually a FLAC file, .FLAC, of that same recording, just a different version. Same thing, I can just go in and play certain sections, so on and so forth. The items window is where we're going to select items. So if I wanted to include this, let's say I want to copy some stuff out, I'm going to go ahead and select this item, and then we'll move on and show you a few more features like viewing video. This is a 3GP cell phone video. plays right within our quick viewer. So that's one way of viewing it. We can also right-click to see the full file size and other ways of viewing this file. So we can play in quick view. We don't have an associated, QuickDME doesn't have an associated viewer, but I do have permissions to view it with my Windows default viewer. So I could actually do that, and it would launch my Windows default viewer to view this particular file. Most standard video file types, and even some proprietary ones, are going to play within our quick view player, and we're continually expanding that capability as we develop QuickDME. So things like camcorders, even here's an MTS file from, I believe, a Canon camcorder on some surveillance that was being done. So I can play that file right within the quick view interface or my Windows default. So here's some photos. This is a good example of, you can see the red box. This indicates that this one was marked as sensitive, but it was marked as sensitive by me, which is why I can see it. So I could right-click and just say, hey, download and view with my default photo viewer, and boom, it allows me to view it right within Windows with that particular viewer. Here's some proprietary video. In this case, this is an exe file. Now, it's a self-contained player. So again, I don't need a file association to view this exe that was exported directly out of the DVR. I'm just going to launch the exe with Windows. And what it's going to do is download that asset and launch the actual proprietary viewer. So we can now begin working with this particular proprietary viewing file. In other cases, we may need to associate. So here I have some EverFocus DVR footage, and the EverFocus files are .avr. QuickView is going to attempt to play it, but if it can't, I can simply right-click on one of these files and do a download and view with associated viewer. Because I've made that association as an administrator, it's going to go ahead and launch that particular proprietary viewer and allow me to view those files. So that's a really handy feature, especially for self-contained players, but if they're not self-contained, you can make them self-contained. So I'm going to show you an association here in just a moment. We have, in this case, that RE4 file, and I meant to uncheck that, which this little checkbox is going to attempt to download the full file and view it. By default, it's generally unchecked so that we only see the low resolution copy of the file, but I had it checked by default and it's struggling on this file. I apologize for that. So I think what I'm going to do is, real quick, I'm going to close out of here and relaunch to show that again. My apologies. All right. So let's go back and show the file association process. So we were on this RE4. I'm going to uncheck this, and I believe I already had created, see the little icon indicates that I'd created an association on this RE4, so I could actually open it and play it in its proprietary viewer as well. We noticed that when I right-clicked, I didn't have a Windows default viewer because I don't have an association on this particular Windows system for .re4 files. If I did, it'd allow me to use that as well. There's that sensitive image we marked as sensitive because I have permissions to view everything. I can see that. But let's go ahead and create an association. So here I have a .wva file, proprietary file, and its viewer. I'm just going to select that proprietary file and go to Tools, Associate. Now, only those assigned this capability are going to be able to do that. In this case, I can just use our new Auto Associate, and you can see it's looking in the evidence folder, and it sees there's a viewer in there, it's actually going to scan there first, and if it finds the appropriate viewer, associate that viewer. And then once I've saved that record, now I've made an association for everyone to use this viewer to view that file. And I can view those associations in my file association list, where we can customize them completely. We can go in and change the file signature that identifies this particular file, because a lot of files use the same extension, but obviously would have different signatures. And we can do some other things like manually replace this player with a new version and upload a new version of that player, so on and so forth. So these are all of the associations that I've made that are unique to QuickDME and allow me to play those files. We don't see that little association icon because I need to refresh the display after making the association, and now we see it has an associated player, and I can launch that to launch the associated player. So let's say I wanted to export this video out of this player, do some editing on it, and then bring the derivative into QuickDME. Well, not too long ago we added the derivative capability, so those with the proper permissions can simply add a derivative and browse to that derivative, which I've got saved on my desktop, and add some notes like, this is an AVI export from the proprietary player. And my information, type of video, CCTV, that's a custom field that I created, as well as the comments, which is optional. You can see the fields in yellow are all mandatory, fields in white are optional, and I'm good. So I've just added a derivative to this case, and there's my derivative folder. Clearly identified by the different color. I can get in and see this AVI file as well as audit information. Nobody's done anything with it yet. If I want to download and view, I can do it one of two ways. Just download and view in Quick View, or by default, if I select this, to download and view it this way by default. And again, that's done so that we can limit how much information is pushed over your network. So for instance, if this had been a couple 100 gigabyte file, I might not want to be trying to download that and view it over the network, so on and so forth, by default anyways. So documents, pretty much any type of file can be installed and uploaded, managed, and viewed. And again, we can go full size. We can open them with our Windows default viewer options, so on and so forth. And so that's a real quick overview on Access DME. Charles, did you want to hit in anything like reports or anything of that nature?
I guess one, just to kind of bring a little bit of detail to the preserve folder structure that you saw Larry reviewing.
Sure.
On ingest. Just one reason that customers would use it one way over the other is as a crime scene photography tool, where you're bringing in someone's gone on scene, they have a camera and removable memory, and they may have recorded more than one crime scene. Actually, I'm going to touch on two things. They may have recorded more than one crime scene on a single piece of media, and they'll, have a division slap screen or something separating the evidence. That goes to that you can ingest multiple cases in one ingest, which we touched on real quickly. Larry did an ingest of a single case. If you were ingesting more than one case at a time, whatever you select multiple ingests, and you select your items and assign your case number, crime type, all that type of stuff. It'll remove those thumbnails and present you the same download or selection screen. You can then select your second ingest, change the case numbers, and then it'll just ingest everything in one execution process. Two separate events, but you don't have to sit there and manually stand by while you do that. The camera memory, oftentimes, they'll get put into those different folder structures, and some people don't like it to have to nest through the folders that are in there. So in that case, you might want to ignore ingest using the folder structure of the media that you're inputting. Where when you're ingesting proprietary video players, they often need to have files exactly in the folder structure they are to operate properly. So that's kind of just highlighting a little bit the nuances of what that feature allows you to do.
And what I've done here is I can select items from multiple cases if I wanted to copy, burn, disclose, so on and so forth. It's easy enough to select things in multiple ways, manually or just dragging and right-clicking, select, so on and so forth. And then we have a way, obviously, to view all selections and work with all those selections. So given that you have permissions, you can print, you can burn to disk, copy, or purge if you have the appropriate permissions. So what I'm going to do is a quick copy process, and I'm just going to copy this out to my desktop, and I'm going to include by default a hash report, which is going to provide the hash values for all of those original items as well right within the copy process. It completes, gives us a little, hey, yep, everything copied successfully, we're all good. So I'm done there. Now let's go take a quick look at what it actually provided. So it provided the hash report, and I had items from 2 different cases that I had selected. I had selected the video file under the cell video case and a bunch of photos under this photos case. And you can see it copied them out to those folders, the case name folders. And then when I access that folder, and excuse me, it just popped up on another screen, it's actually copying that data out in the case number, then the download record and address information, and then the subfolders that might have been from the original source, however many levels deep, all of that would be maintained. So if there were subfolders with additional files in here, everything would be maintained. And of course, our hash report as a CSV file, can be opened up in Microsoft Excel or what have you, includes the file names and hash values for all of those assets. And we can expand that out, the paths, the file sizes, so on and so forth, all included right within the hash report that's generated when you bring those assets or copy those assets out for disclosure, etc. So everything is hashed from soup to nuts. The original hashed before it's even ingested, it's ingested, hashed, validated, all of that is audited with complete details on the entire process. So our entire audit log here can just be run through print audit log. And so I'm going to print this out to a PDF to show you a sample Access DME audit log. And of course it's going to open on another window because that's the way it works when you're doing a live webinar. And then here's my audit log with every audit record pertaining to that particular asset, who viewed it, copied for Joe Schmo, did a copy out, here's another copy that was done, so on and so forth. And again, all customizable. So that's a real hard and fast overview of what the solution does, how it can be helpful for managing your assets, minimizing redundancies as far as copying data over, keeping copies in multiple locations, providing a complete audit log and audit trail on every asset. And probably one of the bigger things is its flexibility and customization. That ability to be completely customized for your agency and your existing policies and procedures to leverage your existing infrastructure rather than requiring that you change your policies and change your infrastructure in order to accommodate the solution. And very flexible because it can be deployed on a single system for just that workstation or across an entire network for hundreds or even thousands of PCs to be ingesting in a standardized way that's completely audited and automated such that, like I said, we can even delete the original source files once we've validated that they're stored securely on the evidence storage location. So with that said, that is our quick overview of the solution. We've got a lot of things in the works. I haven't seen too many questions along the way. So we're in pretty good shape there.
The standard question, will the presentation be available? Yes, we'll get something out to you all in the next day or two, hopefully, in case unless something goes wrong with the encoding. Any other questions? Go ahead and type them in. We'll get to them as.
Yeah, and if necessary, we'll follow up with the questions and answers via the email as well. Just real quick before we close out, I will point out a few resources on the web. So let me pull my web page over here and show you the Ocean Systems website. On the left-hand side, you'll see all of our forensic solutions, Asset Manager, QuickDME. If you pop over there, there's general information, specs, news, releases, and videos. So here's where we have some overview videos on the process, and this is a YouTube playlist that covers how to install QuickDME and the demo package on a single system for checking out QuickDME a little bit closer. Goes over downloading, allowing users to add themselves, so on and so forth. If you're looking for a proposal, just click on the proposal request button and we'll get that information right out to you ASAP. A few of the other resources that we have on our sites, news now, most of our news hits Twitter first, so if you're not already, make sure to check us out on Twitter, just at oceansystems.com, where we announce the latest and greatest about what's going on with us, our training, our products, and solutions. And then we also have a new online store. So on the store site where you can purchase a lot of our solutions directly online via credit card, see what's going on with training, so on and so forth. Browse the store by category, etc. In regards to news, we have some exciting news about the Detective products since we got a second. Detective 7.5, for those of you that are familiar with the Detective solution, we've been working hard on Detective 7.5, and we anticipate it being officially released later today. So be looking for that to hit Twitter feed and our websites shortly as well. Charles, anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Just go to the QuickDME download page real quick. Just wanted to touch on that. Sure. When you go to this page and you fill the form out to go do the download, we've created a demo package. I just want to make sure that anybody that is going to download this understands how to get themselves set up quickly. There's the QuickDME installation that's going to give you quick downloader access, DME, the admin configurator, and the database setup tool. But instead of you going through the process of setting up your own database, we created a database and sample users and the connections and everything that you need just to hit the ground running and be able to experience the main user programs without actually going through a whole full installation customization for your agency. So that's where you saw Larry referencing the 111 user, which is Cornelius Crunch. There's actually data already in there, so you can go in and highlight things and quick view things. So there's the, he was just on it. So up in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see the actual EXE, and then there's a zip package. So there's installation instructions with it. Just remember to download both of those, the EXE and the demo package, and run the EXE first, and then come back through and extract, the sample inside of the zip package, and it's pretty straightforward. It's just a deployment EXE. You should be able to double-click on, and it'll copy the evidence, the databases, and everything all set up for you.
Well, I don't see any other questions, so real quick, I do have time to show the admin configurator tool real quick. I'm just going to log in with the default password to our admin configurator. Again, this tool, the admin configurator, is going to be for those assigned administrator privileges. It's what's used to customize the solution, set up our agency information, our case number pattern. We have what we call tokens that pre-populate. So my case number pattern's the SPD followed by a 2-digit year. So it depends the last 2 digits of the year right there. So it'll be SPD 17, SPD 18 next year, etc. And then we can standardize that entire process. As with a lot of our solutions, you'll see it's in a tabbed interface design. We complete our custom agency information, our storage architecture. So during initial setup, we can define exactly how we want the evidence stored on the server. So if we have a way that's being stored today, for instance, the root is the year, and then type of crime, and then case number, so on and so forth, we can mimic that exactly within our solution by managing that here. The settings, the next tab over, is where all of the functionality customization is done with Quick Downloader. So for instance, whether or not we want to allow or restrict account creation to admin configurator, do we want to give people override capabilities, so on and so forth, as well as our time format, hash reporting, track all auditing, etc. Crimes is where we go in and define our custom crime types, and when doing so, we can determine, what type of hash algorithm we want to use for a given crime. Typically leave MD5 as the default on most because it doesn't take as long to hash and provides just as much validation. We can force that the disk is burnt after it's ingested, or we could require incident classification for a particular type of crime, and all of this is customizable as well. So in this case, here's all of the incidents listed for domestic violence. We can add, rename, delete, so on and so forth to meet our own particular needs. Here's those 2 non-evidence types I mentioned, and this non-evidence body worn. You can see down here I have an auto-purge rule set on 120 days, so anything ingested into these crime types is going to be auto-purged after 120 days if somebody hasn't moved it to another crime type. So that's where we manage the crime types and incidents. Permissions, by default out of the box, we have various group permissions already set up, just somebody who can view, somebody who can burn, print, copy and burn, have full access without purge, full access and purge, and all of that gets applied per user. So, for instance, Cornelius Crunch, the user I'm logged in as, has full access and purge capabilities to every type of crime. He also has many overrides, pretty much all of the overrides checked, so that I can do file associations. I can toggle on and off preserve folder structure as I'm ingesting, so on and so forth. Can print screen within Access DME. When Access DME is open, it locks up Windows clipboard so that people can't be copying and pasting things from within Access DME, etc. So this is where we manage our people, import them, add them, so on and so forth, assign permissions, and then print profiles. We can have multiple custom print profiles. These are just page layouts for how things are added, what we want in the footers, so on and so forth. We can allow users to create their own, and they'd all be listed here for us to manage. And the next tab is our Fields tab. This is where we're going to create our custom fields for each of the forms, including the case custom fields. And you can see that they could be text, numeric, date, time, or a list, drop-down list, like I showed on several of the forms. And we can do 5 custom fields for the case and 5 custom fields for the downloads as well. So some pretty clever ways that that's being leveraged out there. This is our administrative purge interface where we can search all cases, purge assets based on anything, so we can see all cases in the system and anything associated with those cases and purge just that download or asset. or the entire case, etc., run purge log reports. And then the last tab is our licensing tab, where we add and validate the licenses for the solution. You can see that I have a total of 3. One person's currently logged in, me. I have 1 static license assigned to a PC, and 2 dynamic licenses available. So I can remove this static license, but the way this works is if I wanted to create it, I create a static license for a PC. I just click Add, choose the person or account that I want to assign it to. So I created an account for a Detective's kiosk machine, and then create kiosk key, and it creates a little exe that you would run on that machine to permanently assign it a license to that particular machine. So this is the configurator that only administrators would have access to. And then during setup of the solution, let's say you're deploying it across your network, this utility, the database setup utility, is where we would do that setup. It can auto-create the database, manage our storage location, define where we're putting our evidence, set up our SMTP server for sending email notifications and things of that nature. That's all done here. And once it's set up, we generate a connection key, which again is just a little exe file that gets run on all of the client systems to pre-configure them based on the information we've entered here. So this little exe would get deployed on all of the client systems along with the software, and they'd be automatically set up to connect to the database and storage location based on their permissions. So that said, it looks like we've hit the time limit. That is QuickDME. Very simple solution.
We got a couple questions here real quick, Larry.
Extremely scalable. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
What does it say? Can give me a person access to specific case?
You can give a person specific access to just a specific case only one way that I can think of, unless you created their own crime type. But by default, a user who adds themselves to the solution or is manually added to QuickDME and not assigned any permissions only has access to what they ingest. So yes, you can have a person only access what they have ingested themselves.
And then it's broken out in a second question. Can you limit access to a specific case, even if just want one person to access?
Yes. Yes, so in addition to what I just discussed, we could leverage the crime types, again, for that sort of thing. There's a number of ways that can be leveraged, such that, let's say we set up a crime type for ops investigations, and we don't want everybody to have access to those things. We can assign, just that crime type to one person.
Right.
Our intel person for doing internal investigations or what have you. Yes.
So since you can create your own crime types and people's access is defined by crime types, I could make a crime type that's Larry's cases and only give Larry access to Larry's cases.
Right.
So it's very flexible.
Very, very flexible, very scalable. Allows you to leverage your existing storage and network. However, if you are looking for storage to accommodate and grow with you, like I said, we have solutions on the hardware side as well. If necessary, we could handle it soup to nuts. So really appreciate everyone's time today. I see we're about 2 minutes over, so thank you very much for joining us. I hope we've answered all your questions, and we'll be getting the recording out on this webinar soon. If you need anything further, certainly don't hesitate to contact us directly. We always look forward to speaking with you. Thanks again for your time, everybody. Have a great day.
Have a great day.